I'm Taylor Nicole.
And I'm Michael Lester.
And we love making movies.
Welcome to the Finding Favorites podcast, where we explore your favorite things without using an algorithm. Here's your host, Leah Jones.
Hello and welcome to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones. It's 10 till midnight on Sunday, October 1st, and I am squeaking this one in under the wire. What a weekend I've had. I went to dim sum and drag at Furama in Uptown. I celebrated Sukkot with friends. I saw Stop Making Sense at the Music Box last night, where hundreds of people danced during a Talking Heads movie. I had never seen it before, but Jesse from Upper Middle Brow, and I went with some mutual friends, or with friends, and one of his favorite movies, and it was quite the experience. Today I headed down to Lawndale for the Chicago Sukkot Design Festival, and then wrapped up the day back in the movie theater to see A Haunting in Venice. So it was a beautiful bonus summer weekend in Chicago. I was busy. I was out of the house. So this is late. This week I'm talking with Taylor, Nicole, and Michael Lester. They are filmmakers from a small town in Texas. The cicadas, I'm not good enough at sound mixing to get the cicadas out of my microphone. So we had some challenges with our sound. So my apologies for the sound quality. It's a little noisy, but I'm going to blame it on the cicadas and hope that you enjoy this conversation with Taylor and Michael about why they love filmmaking. Boosters are out for COVID. Flu vaccine is available. RSV vaccine is available for the first time ever. So wash your hands, wear your mask, get your booster, and keep enjoying your favorite things. Hello and welcome to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones, and this is the podcast where we learn about people's favorite things and get recommendations without using an algorithm. I am so excited, as I am every time that I get to have someone back to the podcast because they have a new favorite thing to talk about. And it's like double the fun today because I have two people joining me. So we have Taylor Nicole, who you met when she came on to talk about Dax Shepard in the Armchair Expert podcast, and her filmmaking partner, Michael Lester. Taylor and Michael are filmmakers from Texas, working on this year 2 feature films. We're going to get into it. Taylor, Michael, how are you doing?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. How's I feel like you're going to be hearing cicadas from my end because I opened the window, but it's like a perfect end of summer day in Chicago. How are things in Texas for you guys?
It's our end of summer day as well, too. We've been in triple digits for 2 months, basically, and tomorrow is the first cooler day.
Oof.
So still a little warm today, but cooling down, and tomorrow will be better.
Awesome.
Low 90s is our cool day today.
Miserable. I don't know how you do it.
I don't know either.
And you're and I don't publish the video, but you're both wearing like black t-shirts on a 90-degree day, which just makes me even warmer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for us, it's like 90 degrees does actually feel good compared to the 115 degrees it was, so.
Unacceptable.
I know.
Good. I'm glad it is now in the cool 90s for the both of you.
Yes.
Taylor, we know each other through the Armchair Expert world, thanks to Dax Shepard. But Michael, I'm curious, so you're also a filmmaker. How did you and Taylor meet?
We live in the same small town, and I had put some stuff out, and just like a few years ago, I started getting more serious into trying to make films. And so I started meeting people in town here and working with new people. and got in the paper a few times, which is not legitimate. It's just I'm the only person in the town doing anything, so they're starving for information. And I guess Taylor saw one of the things that I did. How did you find it?
There's a Facebook group for the arts events here, and he posted about his movie, and I saw it and reached out to him.
Like a creep, like a real creep.
Yeah, stalked him online.
And
but it was around the time my movie was coming out, too, so I was like, hey, we both did the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it feels a little bit like, what are the chances that there are two independent filmmakers in your small town? That feels pretty special.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's not. It's a small town. I don't know. People's perspectives are different. So, like, I grew up in like a 500-person town, so definitely it would be a thing there. Like, there's 25,000 people in this town, so it's not like a city. But there are people doing things, but it's live in East Texas and like the arts. Well, for instance, like when I said I started reaching out to people in town, I didn't know there was any arts things happening in this town whatsoever. I've lived here for 20 years. But when you start looking, you actually do find people. So I found people who do all kinds of different things, and I found some actors to work in my stuff. But yeah, I haven't found another filmmaker besides Taylor.
Nice. And Michael, did you go to film school? Are you self-taught? What's your filmmaking journey?
I don't think I could say either of those things because I feel like I know what I'm doing. So I'm self-taught, but I'm also a dumb teacher with no knowledge or skills. It's just, for me, it's been a long journey. I started like in the Jackass era when I was a kid. I guess the late 90s, early 2000s. So me and my friends started with a camcorder and just like jumping off of houses and doing dumb stuff like that. And then once you like have to put a video together, or I guess the first time you show a video to a friend that hasn't seen it and they laugh, then that creates a new thing in your brain. So then we went from that to like writing little skits, and then that's ultimately progressed to short films, and then now like trying to make feature films. So it's it's just been a thing that I've always done, and I've just gotten more serious about it in the last few years. Yeah.
That Jackass period. So I think I'm a couple years older than you. I was the hall director of an all-men's freshman residence hall in Colorado, in Durango, Colorado, when Jackass came out on TV. So I had 150 18-year-old young men, boys. I was the only one with cable. So they would like pile into my living room to come and watch Jackass because I was the only one with MTV. So I remember that era so vividly. And I would write a paper about how Jackass is one of the best documentaries about male friendship available to us. Like, if you watch I'm sure you saw Jackass 4.
I haven't, actually.
What?
I aged out of it. I didn't age out of it, but for me, I moved on from that type of content. Yeah. I know it's good. Like, I've heard people talk about it as it's, like you said, like it's actually a little deeper than the rest, about the relationships and the longevity and the things that those guys have gone through. So I at some point, but
I think I think I might have seen it twice in the theaters. I laughed so hard and also cried, but there were so many, I think, boys who picked up cameras because of Jackass.
Yeah, for sure. That was us. That was definitely us. It was a weird for like just kids who don't have any like talents or abilities, and you're just like make a mark. It's like it's a strange thing to find out that, oh, if I just let you kick this ladder into my head, people are gonna somehow think that we're funny or that we have something to offer, and so it was kind of an abusive thing to find out. But yeah, that's what we did. We just threw stuff at each other and jumped off of things, and it definitely got us started with cameras and into that whole thing.
Yeah. And Taylor, what about you? What is your filmmaking origin story?
Well, I think I'm too young for Jackass, so I didn't have that experience, but I was in theater as a little kid and I loved watching movies. My mom's like big story she likes to tell about me as a kid is that I would watch Barney over and over and over and over and over again until like the VHS broke. Mm-hmm. So I just like to rewatch things, and by the time I had seen it 5 times, I could like recite it forwards and backwards, and I just loved so much watching movies. And then there's a movie, it's a live action Peter Pan, I think it's from like 2001, 2003. After we had done the tax test in 3rd grade, my teacher put that on and we had to wait for a long time. So by the time we finished watching the movie, we still had time to wait. So she put on all the behind the scenes from that movie.
Oh.
And I just remember being like, oh, this is like a thing that people can do. Like I could go do this. So I got a little into acting first. Mm-hmm. I auditioned for Barney and I auditioned for Disney Channel, and I wanted to be on Disney Channel. And yeah, it was just something that I really, really loved to do. And then as I got older, I kind of realized that I didn't have to do it in the way that everybody says you have to do it. Like, you don't have to put yourself on tape and make yourself into like this box of who you should be in order to make the things that you love. And so I was just like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make my own movies.
Nice. So wait, time out. You auditioned for Disney and Barney? Did you talk your parents into taking you to like LA or Orlando, or were they like mobile? I'm from Indiana. Nobody I knew auditioned for TV growing up. So how did you find how Taylor?
Well, the Barney, like, I don't know if it's their headquarters or they're just where they do auditions, but it's here in Texas. It's in Irving, which is like an hour from where I grew up. So that was pretty easy. You just go and you sit in this room and people are coloring and they take you in. And I don't remember doing like lines or anything, but I know that, I mean, it's a kid, so you just kind of see what the kid can do. And make it, obviously, because I wasn't on but and I loved Demi Lovato a lot as a kid, and she was on Barney, so I was like, well, if she was on Barney, then I need to be on Barney.
Okay.
Didn't get on Barney. And then for Disney Channel, it was during, like, the internet and stuff, so it wasn't like I had to go to LA or anything like that, which I'm sure people did at the time, but it was just emails. Like, put your kid in for this and put your kid in for that. And I tried to be in Camp Rock and all this stuff because I thought I should be. And I didn't get in.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I think that's interesting because you grew up. YouTube was created when I was in my 20s. But I think for Taylor, you've almost always had YouTube, right?
Pretty much. I remember in 3rd grade is when I saw my big first YouTube video.
Right. So I'm curious for the two of you, why filmmaking and not content creator? How have you decided to stay committed to shorts and features versus doing like skits, sketches, characters on TikTok and YouTube?
Well, for one, I do that also. So, like, I can have it all, I hope, or I think.
Great.
I think there's value in every type of thing. But for me personally, well, see, I kind of set myself up badly because she gave the, like, childhood dream thing about filmmaking. Well, I also had childhood dreams and deep stuff, but for some reason I led with the Jackass thing.
I think that Jackass is such a universal story, right? The Jackass guys did it because they took videos out skateboarding, right? Like they come up from Thrasher magazine and skateboarding videos. And I think I do not, and it's not just because I watched the clip where you talk about Jackass in your movie, but I'm not going to let you discount Jackass being an inspiration.
No, I think it has value. I'm not, when I talk about things, I don't really talk about them for what they are, but more for what they mean. So I have a point forming in my brain. So like, I do all of that stuff. I like to make little skits and sketches, and I love making a 60-second TikTok.
Yeah.
But from what Jackass was for me personally was, like I said, when I was 13, I found out that I could just hit myself in the head and show it to somebody and they would like me. And so for this the smaller stuff, for me personally, it's more about like instant gratification and can I get a laugh and can I get a reaction, which I need in the moment, but what I need to fulfill myself in the bigger picture is connection, and that's why I want to make films, because I want to. When I was 15 years old, I lived down the street from a Blockbuster, and I had the first form of what Netflix was, which is you paid $25 a month and you could rent unlimited movies. And so you can only take out one at a time. So I'd wake up on a Saturday at 9 a.m., I'd walk down to Blockbuster, rent a movie, come home, watch it, go back, and I might watch 4 movies in a day, like that. And then
I love that.
And at that time, you couldn't just hop on the internet and find anything out about a movie. You just had to look at the case, and based on what they put on it or what words they had on the back. So at a certain point, I was watching movies that no one has ever rented from Blockbuster. And so what I found were these more kind of like obscure movies or character movies. And I lived in this small town where I felt different. I felt I was thinking and emoting on a different level than the people around me. And again, when you don't just have the internet like you do now, and you can't just hop on and find 10,000 people who feel like you, it can be very isolating and lonely. And so when I found those movies, I was like, oh, there's people in the world that are like me, and they feel the things I feel, and they think the things I think. And so that's ultimately what I wanted to do with films, is like just connect to people and say like, this is who I am, and maybe that can help you figure out who you are at some point. Yeah.
I love that. Our video store was also like 3 blocks away. It was in the shopping mall. It wasn't a shopping mall. The strip mall with like the Kmart, and there was a Kmart at one end, Little Caesars, a Chinese restaurant, and a Blockbuster or a video store. So absolutely walking distance. And we would occasionally, I remember when you would also like rent a VCR from Blockbuster or U-Haul. So we would like rent a second VCR from U-Haul, rent a bunch of movies for the weekend, and then we would pirate the movies using the second VCR we had rented. And we would have like every videotape in my house would have like 2 or 3 movies on it. And then that's what we would watch during the week and in between rentals.
Yeah. I'm old enough to barely remember that. So we were poor growing up, so we would never get to do anything like that. But I remember one time my parents were probably close to getting a divorce, so they were like, let's have a special family night. And so I remember we rented a VCR and Aladdin, I think, is what we rented. We got to watch that and then feel good for a minute until our lives were ruined the next week or whatever.
We're going to give the kids a movie about their wishes, the greatest wishes coming true.
Yeah.
And then do the opposite. Well, that's also when Disney movies, not to just make this nostalgia train, Disney movies also only used to come out every 7 years.
Yeah.
So like they would be available during your childhood. You eventually got to watch all of them, but they were only available once every 7 years, and they'd go back in the vault.
Yeah.
So like if you didn't get Taylor's, the look on her face is amazing because she's never known a world where you can't just get Aladdin all the time.
Where you can't get everything you want all the time. Because even just any movie, if you saw it in theater, it might be 9 months before you could rent it.
Right.
And now they're on demand 7 days after they come out in theater or whatever. So yeah, it was a big different kind of monster then.
Well, I remember I used to have some old Disney VHS tapes and stuff, and I remember they would have like the commercials and stuff before the movie, and they would always advertise a movie coming out from the vault, and I didn't know what that meant. I was like, oh, okay, they're just doing some cool thing there, but it actually means something, so I'm learning stuff today.
Yeah. Yeah, it was that, and it's a neat idea that, like, 7 years is sort of a generation of kids, right? Like, that's elementary school is 7 years. So they would make a movie available. Cinderella's available this year, and then it's not available for 7 more years. And then by the time it comes back, like, there's a whole fresh crop of kids who never got to see it, who, like, their parents will go out and buy it for them.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But it's difference in, like, you know, all of those movies being, like, gigantic moments and milestones of my childhood, like The Lion King and Aladdin. And then now you don't have anything like that because you're just getting everything from every direction. And so nothing is ever like a life marker anymore. It's all just kind of jumbled. So it was nicer that way to me. I don't want to sound like an old person, but like it's too, whatever we have now is just too much. I mean, I land tonight and decide to watch a movie. And for me, watching a movie has actually turned into scrolling for a movie. If I say I'm going to watch a movie, that means I'm going to look for a movie for 45 minutes and get tired and go to sleep.
Yep. No, absolutely. My high school is defined by Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and Lion King. Like, those are the 3 Disney movies of my high school experience.
Yeah.
Because we did Beauty and the Beast and marching band, which was very fun.
Ooh.
So I happen to know that the two of you are launching a Patreon. Is that true?
I have launched the Patreon. It hasn't picked up much speed. I was just like, we did all this fundraising and it's taken not longer than we expected to make this movie. It's just taking a long time.
It's taken longer. I don't know. It's taken longer than I expected.
Because we can only film like once a weekend. And so we've been filming since January. And we've been fundraising since, I think, mid-November of last year. And people were very kind and very generous and gave us money. We did not expect to get the money that we have received, but we still have a little bit to go. And so instead of just begging people for money a bunch of times, I kind of set it up so that if people feel like they want to, they could help us sustain until we can finish the movie.
Yeah.
I set it up like that.
What are the projects? Talk to me about, like, what's in your to-do list. What are the projects you're working on?
Well, right now it's a project. That's literally one we've been working on since January, and it's the movie that I wrote. It's called Inspirational Blame. It's loosely based on our friendship in that it's about 2 down on their luck filmmakers who decide instead of waiting around or whatever, they're going to make their own movie. So they do that. And it's very meaningful because it's, like I said, it's based on our friendship and everything. And it's taken a while to film, but it's been fun and it's been an experience.
Do the two of you, because you're both acting in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have is all the camera work, like, you're setting up a tripod and you're running in front of it, or do you have anyone else on crew with you to help with, like, lighting? And are you the crew and the actors and the directors and the writers, or is there anyone else holding a piece of equipment for you?
It's mostly us. We'll have some people in to help every now and then, but no one's gonna work for free every Saturday for 9 months. So it's mostly us. We find creative ways to work around that. I mean, I think it's good to an extent. At some point, you want to just have people there to help, but it makes us better and smarter. You know, every time we run into a problem, we have to figure out how to solve it just between the two of us. The good thing about this movie is it's these 2 leads, and so we're separate a lot of the time, and then we're together some of the time. So when we're separate, at least Taylor, if it's my day and my scenes, Taylor will be just running camera, and then vice versa.
It is
Nice.
very demanding of us, though, because it is a bunch of juggling of hats. In that it's like, okay, we're here, let's set the camera up, let's make sure the audio is working, let's do all of this stuff, and then run in front of the camera. Now we have to cry, and then when that's done, you cut, and it's like switching the hats again. So, but I feel like it is more personal that way, and it feels like we've worked for it a lot, because we are literally just working for 8 hours a day while we're filming, and so, yeah.
Nice. And is this technically something I've learned over the last year, because I've had a friend out with a short doing the festival circuit. Is this is technically a feature? So does that mean it means it's like 100 minutes or 60? What is it technically a feature? How long do you anticipate it being?
It's 100% a feature, and I think depending on the festival, they say that a feature is something that's over either 45 minutes or 55 minutes. And this is going to be way longer than that, I think. Okay. I think, so in the screenwriting world, they say that 1 page equals 1 minute. And I think this movie is 137 pages.
Okay, great. So it's a feature. Have you been filming the script chronologically, or are you chunking it out, like you're doing April is all Taylor scenes and May is all Michael scenes? Like, how are you attacking the project of getting it filmed?
It's neither of those things. It's just do what you can when you can. So
yeah,
like if we have outside scenes and it's 110 degrees, we'll have to try to shoot inside scenes that day, and it's like location and actors are, the main scheduling thing. Like in my experience, 50% of the work of making a movie is just saying, can you do it Saturday? No. Okay. Can you do it Sunday? Yeah. Okay. Then I'm going to call this guy and see if he can do it Sunday. That's all the work. So it's definitely not chronological. And it's just whatever you're forced to do, basically. Like what you can get done that day.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I somehow made it so that, like, I think, like, most of the outside scenes we filmed when it was 115 degrees outside. There's one scene that was supposed to take place during winter, and we're outside. I'm wearing, like, a thick turtleneck, and it's so hot outside. But I think we're done with all the outside scenes. But now it's gonna be nice weather, so it's like we should have like flipped that.
But we should have. But again, we didn't know that it was gonna go on this long, and so like I said, you just got to do it when you can do it, and we couldn't say, well, we'll just wait 10 months to shoot the winter scenes when it's actually winter again.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so the page on the Patreon, people can sign up if people listening aren't familiar. Patreon is a website that allows artists and creators essentially to set up patronage programs where, like Michelangelo or any of the artists of the Renaissance, right? You're having patrons who pay $1 a month, $10 a month, $100 a month, so that you can actually plan and budget for your filmmaking. And so essentially you're looking for people to subscribe for a certain dollar amount every month. And then I know when I looked, like, that people might get credit, like they'll show up in the film's credits. And so there's a little bit of like a Kickstarter rewards level to it, but people should go on Patreon and sign up. And even if it's $1 a month, I think when you know that the money is coming in every month, you can be more planful about how you're going to buy new equipment or budget out the rest of the movie.
Exactly, yeah. Mainly everything that is left is just we have to feed people. And we have scenes coming up where we have actual actors there that aren't just me and Michael. Me and Michael could go to like McDonald's and be fine. But other people I feel like would want something different. So it's mainly just to get us through to the end of filming. And in return, we're giving people like, I think up there I have like few stills from shoot days. You can see early, and then we have like a behind the scenes videos up there. you just get to see some of the stuff we're working on in return for helping us out.
That's great. And you sent me pictures, which are fabulous. They're so good. They're so high quality. I'm excited for people to see these, like, just how good they look, and how, and then you sent a scene, a car chit chat.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where does that scene fall in the movie? Is that like you're just getting to know each other early in the movie, or?
That takes place, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that is the 50th scene out of 100. So it would be exactly in the middle of the movie.
Okay. Outstanding.
And not to discredit the work, I'll say, Michael has done, but the camera that we were able to buy is so great. You can turn it on and it looks amazing. So it's been fun for us to see the stuff that we've shot, like, after we shoot it, and been like, this looks so good, what the heck?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it makes it...
Go ahead.
Oh, it makes a difference to have the right tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was hard for me confidence-wise because, again, just being poor and not having the funds to kind of do it is, I was just shooting everything I had done prior to this. It was just like a $300 camera you can just go into Walmart and buy. And so, for instance, the very last scene of the very last film that I made and Taylor helped with is we set it, like, I really had a picture in my mind, and we set it up and we lit it and we did everything. We spent an hour setting up for a 20-second shot, and it looked good, it looked okay. And then that was the last thing we shot with that camera, and then we got the new camera, and like she said, literally I just clicked it on pointing at a tree, and I'm like, oh, it looks better than anything I've ever constructed with any amount of work and time. And so it was good because then it like opens up a new world, but then also it kind of is a bummer because it's like, I really thought I sucked the rest of the time, but it really was just, and then of course everybody has access to good stuff because technology gets better. So you'll like be in a Facebook group and you see a 15-year-old kid that's making like amazing cinematic stuff. And then once you finally get a camera, you just realize, oh, he's not like that much better than me. His parents are just rich and bought him an $8,000 camera to just play with.
Right.
So that's been a whole journey in itself. But again, like, that's kind of a pessimistic look at it. But yeah, we're very happy to have the camera and that people bought it for us basically with donations and. Yeah, that was amazing. I had done a fundraiser for myself previously, and I'm not good at that kind of thing. And I raised like $50 total from people. And then we did this thing, and Taylor, she built all these programs, and she's much better at all of that. And yeah, it turns out if you just ask people who like you, then you might be able to get some money, and it worked out for us.
I think there's this really great quote from Ira Glass from This American Life, and he said it years ago in an interview, and then Mike Birbiglia talked to him about it on a recent episode of a podcast. And it's about how when, as an artist, your taste is, you have better taste than you have abilities when you start making your art. Yeah. And how frustrating it can be when you know what a good movie is because you've been studying movies your whole life, and then you start making them, and you have to go through the dip. Like, you've got to go through the slog of learning the craft before you can make things that are as good as your taste, right? Like, your taste outstrips your ability at the beginning, and that is so hard to get through.
Yeah, and you just have to do it. Like, filmmaking is a very specific thing. Like, when you asked earlier about being self-taught or whatever, it's like, you can go to film school, or you could just buy a textbook and you could read every way to do a thing. Mm-hmm. But with filmmaking, you just have to do it. That's the only way you'll ever learn. And like we talked yesterday, we shot some stuff yesterday, and we have a couple shots in this movie that we really just love, and they came out perfectly. And they come out I say by accident. I don't want to like take the credit away from us, because like you said, that's the thing, is we've got the idea in our head and we know what we need to get, but we just don't know exactly how to get it.
Right.
And so sometime with like yesterday it was simple as a role focus from a foreground character to a background character, but based on the scene and what's happening and what they're saying, just the speed of that role focus matters. And we got one perfect yesterday, and it was mostly by accident. But again, I knew what it was supposed to be, but I wouldn't be able to. I couldn't just say you got to roll focus. It's got to take you 1.5 seconds to switch from this character to this character. I just had to see it, and Taylor just happened to do it perfectly. And then so they do it, and then and then from that moment on, like you understand what that concept is and how to do it.
And another thing for us is that, or for me, I'll say, is that, so I wrote the movie and then I storyboarded the entire movie, and that is just drawing exactly what you think the shots are going to look like. And in the beginning, I would get really frustrated because either the shots are not going to work or it's not going to work the way I wanted it to. And I think that's a big part of filmmaking, in that some people can do that. Like, I'm sure Steven Spielberg can go in and just like do exactly what he wants to do, and it's going to look exactly like he thinks it's going to.
Now
he's Spielberg.
He can do that now.
Yeah. But I think something that was really, or is really meaningful for this movie, is that it is not just set in stone exactly how I planned it to. And I think it's very cool to be like in the moment, and Michael will say, well, what if we did it this way? Like, this will be really cool. And in the beginning, especially, I was like, no, I don't think so. I don't think it's gonna work like that. But it doesn't. Like 90% of the shots in this movie are because he's amazing, and he just, like, the way he sees things, it looks so cool. And I'm glad that it works that way and is not exactly like I wanted it to, because if it looked exactly like I storyboarded it, it wouldn't be the same movie, and I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, that's why it's such a fun thing, is because it's collaborative and it's organic. And so Taylor focuses, she's a writer, and so she writes characters, and she, you know, that's, I mean, I don't want to speak for her, but like, I think that's the words and what the words being said and what they mean and how they're affecting the characters. That's what's important for her. But like, I love getting to a set or to a location and then imagining not what the characters are going to say, but how they would feel saying it in that place. And so that for me is like how I get inspired, and I storyboard my stuff too. But you have to have some kind of idea, but I'm not strict on it, and I love just walking into a space and thinking, how would humans live here? How would they interact? And so we do that, and it's we have a good balance, and also we listen to each other. So sometimes I'll say, I think this is what should happen and what I would do, and she'd say, well, I wrote the movie and that's not what's going to happen. You have to be able to not have like an ego and just say, okay, it is your movie, so I'll say what you tell me to. Yeah. But then and then vice versa, she has to be able to listen to my ideas and say, maybe that would be more interesting, or add to the emotion of this scene, or whatever.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, let's fast forward to 10 years. And so it's 2033. That seems impossible. It's 2033. You both are living in, let's say, LA or Atlanta, which are like the two of the big film industry hubs. You're working on a big project together, $10 million budget, and you each, you know, like, you're executive producers and you get all the extra credits. But like, if you could only have one primary role on a movie because you're like fully staffed, what would you want would you, Michael, be like the director of photography? Would you actually be locations and set deck? Like, if you could do one job on a movie and not all the jobs on a movie, what job would you want?
My answer is a little bit of a cheat, because it would just be director, which basically gives you power over all the jobs. But I have, people will say that I'm self-deprecating or whatever, but I just am a truthful, honest person about who I am. Like, I wasn't always, and I had a lot of hard times of trying to figure out what I was doing and whatever. So I'm old enough now that I know who I am. I know what my strengths are. So, for instance, I did go to film school or a video production school for 6 months, and so I got on this project with a group of people, and I'm trying to set up the lights, and I can't do it. I don't know how to do it, and I'm trying to expose the camera, and I can't do it, and I don't know how to do it. But then I'm able to just step back from all those things, and I can recognize, well, that light needs to be doing this to work for this scene, and that camera needs to be capturing this. I can't seem to do any of those individual things on my own, but I am good at big picture and understanding how all the elements work together, and so I feel like that's when I'm most successful, is when I can just step back and see the big picture and try to help inform people. I mean, even with actors, I feel like I'm pretty good at directing actors and helping them understand the moment or why. Like I said earlier, what I would do is say, I wouldn't say this, and then I'm able to say, well, you wouldn't say this, but this character that you're playing is going through something different than you have gone through, or they're going through the same thing you did, but they are handling it differently. And so I think I'm pretty good at helping each individual person on the set kind of understand how they're a part of the bigger picture and how they're serving the bigger picture.
All right. So your career dream, director.
Yeah.
Great. And Taylor, your career dream?
Mine is easy, but not easy, because if I never acted a day in my life, I would be really sad, because I love to act and I love making things. But at the end of the day, I'm a writer. I've always been a writer, so I would write movies. But I'm also a little of a control freak when it comes to my stuff, so I don't want to just write something and give it to somebody and let them have control. I would want to write and make the movie myself. So So I guess
you want to be a writer director. A director? I don't even know what I'm. I've had a lot of coffee, and I took my ADHD medicine at 11 a.m. High risk situation. So I don't even know what's coming out of my mouth right now. So you would be a writer director, and then who is it? Is it there's a couple directors out there who insist on giving themselves cameos. Is it Guillermo del Toro? Does he do funny, not funny, haha, or Quentin Tarantino? There are some directors out there that give themselves cameos.
The main one I think of is M. Night Shyamalan. He has all his movies.
That's it. Yeah. So you could be a M. Night Shyamalan cameo taker.
Yeah.
I think I would really I'm sure I could think of somebody who is different than this person I'm going to say, but I really love Danny McBride's career. I think he has such a good career. He writes his stuff. He lives in Charleston, I think, with all of his friends. They all make movies together. They all make shows together. He has full control over everything. That's the kind of career I would want, in which I could do it my way. I wouldn't have to worry about, I know he has studios and stuff that he has to talk to and everything, but I don't want somebody telling me what I can and can't do, because I just do what I want to do.
I think the deeper part of this conversation is the question you asked is, what job would you want? Well, for me, I don't want to be a job. I don't want directing to be a job for me. I want it to just be the thing that I do and that I love to do. And you talk about somebody like Danny McBride, and he's a great beacon, because he does just do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
But that's one in a million to just be able to do that and become mega successful. And so for me, that's what I want to do. I just want to do whatever I want. But also, I don't care if I ever make any money or if anybody ever sees anything that I do. And so, I guess if you actually said, what job do you want? I probably wouldn't say director. I don't want a job at all. I don't want to go the real world for financial stuff. The thing that I love and that I'm passionate about and that I dream to do is to make films.
Okay.
But we talk about all that stuff a lot, the balance of just regular life and making movies, and then even back to the Jackass stuff, and in acting for me, I do act and I like to do it, but I know specifically for me, I like it because it can make people like me. So if someone cry or do something funny on camera and they like me, and so I have a healthy relationship with. I know the reason I like to act is because it will make people like me. And then making movies is different. I make movies because that makes me like me. I'm proud of what I do and what I put together.
Yeah.
So it's all very complicated for me, at least anyway, because I think every second of every day.
Yeah. I love that. I appreciate both of your answers. I think you're both really honest. I think Danny McBride is a great. Did he have an armchair interview?
Did.
I know that. I know that I've listened to at least one long form interview with him where he was just like, wait, why can't I do this in my hometown and just move the industry to me? Why do I have to leave my family for 6 months a year? Why can't I bring the industry to me? And he is really transformed. I probably his town and the lives of the people that crew with him. And I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and he went to film school with those guys, Jody Hill and all the people that he makes all his shows with. He went to he's known them forever, and I think that's really I respect it a lot that he brought the people with him. It wasn't like he was like, all right, peace out, I got this movie, I'm gonna go be a movie star. He was like, no, do this, but also we have this still, and we're gonna keep doing this. And I think I really love that.
I mean, I'll tell you guys, when I watched the clip that you shared with me, I got Richard Linklater vibes, right? About a boy's life, before sunset, a bug's life, before sunset, before sunrise, before midnight,
and School of Rock, even though it's different.
Oh, he made School of Rock?
He did. That's one of my favorite movies ever.
Oh my gosh.
When I was going to Blockbuster and I was picking movies, Before Sunset, or whichever of those is the first movie in that trilogy.
Before Sunrise, yeah.
Those are the kind of movies that really, influenced me, and I just, when I talk about relating to people, I'd find an independent movie, and there's really no plot. It's just a moment. It's just a moment in time, and that was super intriguing to me, because I was like, oh, you don't have to follow a formula. There doesn't have to be a bad guy. Everyone can be the bad guy, or everyone can be the good guy. And you can just spend a moment experiencing someone else's experience, and that was very transformative for me. So yeah, just being in the car and just being a part of two people's conversations, and a lot of the conversations in the movie are inspired by real conversations that we had, and so that's why she wrote this. But that's the vibe of this thing that I like. Is it's just two people. I don't think for me, it's not like a story of will they be successful, will they make it big. It's just a story of two people who, despite their troubles in their personal lives, they have a shared goal, and they keep each other up. They pick each other up when the other one's down, and they just stay on that path. And to me, that's the whole thing. It's not about the destination, it's about staying on the path. And so there's scenes in the movie where that's all it is. It's just us talking about the things we like to do.
Yeah. So I'm curious. We've been talking a lot about the filmmaking, where it comes for you guys, your goals, but I'm curious, what are some of your favorite movies or comfort movies? Are there movies that you each return to that you're like, I want to feel good, so I'm going to watch this movie? Or are you, Taylor, you've already said you wore out your Barney tape, so I know that you might be a repeat viewer.
I'm chronically repeating, watching every single movie I've ever seen in my life. So my favorite movie of all time is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. It'll always be my favorite movie. Yeah. But then I have other movies that I like that, Little Miss Sunshine is one of my favorite movies of all time. For me, it's number one is The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and that's a spot that will never be knocked down. And then after that, it's every other movie is on the same playing field for me, because I love them so much. I have a Letterboxd, and all of my Letterboxd reviews are 5 stars. I just love this movie, even though it's Space Buddies from 2003.
Yeah. And what is it about Perks of Being a Wallflower? Because I think I've read the book, but I've never seen the movie.
Well, so I think it's such a great movie because the person that wrote the book directed the movie, that never happens.
That's so rare.
Yeah, so it's just like the perfect book to movie adaptation ever. And I think for me personally, I love it so much because I was that main character. I was Charlie. I was a wallflower and I didn't fit in with anybody, and I had so much like pain inside of me that I couldn't like process or get out, and I just wanted to be somebody that could go out and experience the real world, not in my head. And so first time I saw that movie, I just like bawled the entire way through. And it's still very special to me because even though I'm not a 14-year-old kid who doesn't know how to participate in life anymore, I still have those aspects in me. And I'm still like, oh, I'm feeling like Charlie today. Like, that's me. It'll always be really special to me.
Okay. And Michael, what about you? What are some of your favorites?
Well, comfort. You said comfort movies, and I just like to say
I did say comfort movie. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to address comfort first. Comfort movies for me are disaster movies.
Okay.
I don't know what that is. I do think I know what it is. I think it's like when you feel out of control or you feel stressed or whatever, to just watch the world crumbling on itself and everyone die. Like maybe it gives you like perspective or whatever. So, like, when everything feels like it's going wrong and I can't pay the light bill or whatever, then I just go watch John Cusack, like, fly away from the earth separating in half. And I'm like, well, at least I'm not there. At least I'm not in that place.
Right.
So I go to sleep to disaster movies. But my favorite movies are we kind of touched on it already. It's just, like, I like a vibe. I like just a moment. I like things not always working out. There's a movie called 500 Days of Summer, which I love. Near perfect movie for me, and I love that movie because it's about a relationship and a breakup, and it's very specifically made to make you feel to empathize with one character, with the male lead, and then I think if you watch it again, you understand that he's not very good. And it made me question myself, like, oh, you fall in love and then everything's romantic and you feel like every gesture you make is heroic. But then if you can look at it from another person's perspective, like if a person doesn't want your heroic gestures and you're giving them anyway, then they're maybe not quite heroic and a little more stalkery or whatever. So no, it's a really cool movie because it's got such a vibe that you watch it the first time and you just feel good watching it. And if you take the time to examine it and watch it again, you realize there's a lot more going on than what you think. So I like movies that are just about people and relationships, and for some reason, I like when they don't end up good for the characters, because I think that's life. I think happy endings are kind of a weird thing. We talk about these kind of things sometimes, and a thing that I always talk about is that happiness is an emotion. It's not an absolute thing, and so. If you're just striving to reach happiness, you're always going to be let down because it's never going to last. But if you consider it a feeling and you just try to achieve the feeling of happiness, if you have 9 happy days and 8 sad days, then you had a happy, 17 days. You know what I mean? And so I don't like happy endings in movies. I like just kind of more realistic endings, and the characters don't always get what they want, or they end up having to part ways or whatever. So I like a couple of movies that I really like are Garden State, Lost in Translation, 500 Days of Summer, Little Miss Sunshine. There's a movie called Away We Go that I really love. So those are all very specific vibe. And Richard Linklater movies, the one you were talking about, Boyhood is what it is. And then the Before Sunset movies, all that kind of stuff. That's what I like.
Yeah. The Before Sunset, the Before trilogy, Before Sunset came out, I think, my freshman year of college. So when I studied abroad, it was like fresh in my brain. And then a sequel 9 years later after I had moved to Chicago, and then another sequel 9 more years later. I love that trilogy. I think it is a perfect set of movies of like complicated adult relationships. It's romantic, but you're right, like it's not a linear story. And it just takes these, it's like when you sample a lake or something. It's like a sample of their lives. We're just going to pull out 12 hours and we're going to look at those 12 hours and that's the whole movie. And I just love those movies.
And what's great about those, especially the first one, and I haven't watched it in a long time, so I could be completely wrong, but the idea to me is like they're not pushing it on you one way or the other. No, they're not trying to tell you something. They literally are just dropping you in. And so for me, like, it's easy to just watch that movie and be like, if you're a romantic person, it's easy to just be like, oh, I could just get on the train today and my soulmate will be there.
Right.
But for me, it's not that. It's actually the opposite of that, which is that there's 6 billion people in the world, and there's no chance you'll ever come across. If you did have one true soulmate, there's statistically no chance you'll ever come across them. But you could just get on the bus and meet a person and develop a relationship. And if you just are open, if you're just open to that, in any day of your life, you're just open to like talking to someone and getting to know them and sharing in their experience, like. I think we're all soulmates. I think every one of us are soulmates, and it's just like how often do we just get on the bus and look out the window and not try to share life with any other person?
Right.
That's what that movie was to me.
That's a beautiful interpretation. All right, so we've got the Patreon. People can get on board, subscribe, support the movie that you're the current feature. What's the name of the current feature, or what's the working title of the current feature?
The title is Inspirational Blame.
Inspirational Blame. So then in 2024, are we switching to one of Michael's scripts?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't.
Do you know which one that'll be yet, or are you going to wait and see how you feel after you finish Inspirational Blame?
Yeah, I'm going to see how I feel. I've got a couple things, and I had one I really liked, and that was kind of the plan, and then I've just, again, like over the last few years, I've had new experiences and met new people, and I really want to make it, and I just think maybe I need to find a different way to do it, and so I've kind of reset on that and moved on to some different ideas.
Yeah. So I have a final filmmaking question for you, each of you. Okay. It's super unfair of me to ask. What's your dream adaptation? Like, if you could get so Perks of Being a Wallflower, Taylor, is what you think is the perfect book to screen adaptation. Mm-hmm. But is there a story out there? And I'll tell you the one that I wish I could adapt, but I'm not a filmmaker, so it's just like, whatever. It's out there in the ether. I want somebody to do it. Mm-hmm. So I want to know about your dream adaptation. Mine is, there was a pilot named Leah Jones who learned how to, like, snuck out of chemistry class to become a pilot in the 1940s, in the late 30s, early 40s, like on Long Island. And she was a pilot of Piper Cubs during World War II, and she would ferry them across the United States. There were all these women pilots that flew domestically, and women who were plane mechanics domestically during the war. And I have it behind me somewhere. She wrote, like, it's a spiral-bound notebook of her memories of ferrying planes across the country. Where you could fly like 2 states, and then you had to land the plane, fill up on gas, spend the night at some random motel. And she has since passed, and there's a annual scholarship in her name with the Piper Cub Club on Long Island. And I just am like, oh, there is a story there about these young women who were pilots during the war domestically. Because she has a story of like they're flying a plane, and they would stop in places like my hometown in Terre Haute, Indiana. Like, you weren't flying from LaGuardia to O'Hare. You were flying from like little regional airports. So there was one time where she like spent the night in my hometown. I'm like, that's really cool.
That's so
but she was piloting with somebody who had now we would call it PTSD. At the time, they only called it shell shock. And there was only one hotel room available in town, and they had to share a room. And he like woke up having like night terrors, and she had to like help calm him down. And she's very clear that nothing sexual or romantic happened, but the story of these two pilots, one who's shell-shocked from war and one who's like a young woman who's unmarried, flying across the country together. So that's my dream adaptation. Feel free to take it.
Yeah.
I will mail you the Notebook. I want it to happen so bad because I felt guilty. For years, she was the only Leah Jones on the internet. And then I started blogging in 2003, and I destroyed her SEO, and I have felt guilty about it ever since.
Well, I can't wait to see that
yes.
adapted. I think for me, so when I was a kid, I really loved Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, and I wanted to make it into a movie, and then they just did, which is perfect. So it didn't need a stamp on it anyways, but I really like, I feel like a lot of musicals don't get the adaptation that they deserve. I don't know what musical I would choose, but whenever I first graduated high school, we had done this jukebox musical called Hello, My Baby, and it goes like, it's about song sellers in like 1914. They would go on and they would sell songs, and they, it's a lot of like Irving Berlin and the Gershwin brothers and all that kind of music. But it was so much fun, and I even like started writing a screenplay for it. I was like, I am 19 years old. I'm never gonna get the rights to do this musical. Yeah. But it was fun, and it girls weren't allowed to be song pluggers at the time. So this one girl, she wants to sell songs and she wants to write songs, so she goes undercover as a guy to sell songs, and then in the end she is able to do it by herself, which that's fun. And then there was a book that I read when I was little, and it was, I forget what it's called. I think it's like Pretty Like Us is what it's called, but there is this girl who grew up in the South, and she is like third generation of these strong women in her family, and they have this idea of what beautiful means. I think her name in the book is even Beauty, because like her family thinks that she's beautiful. And then she meets this girl who comes to school. I think she has progeria, I think is what it's called. It's like the Benjamin Button disease, I think is what it is. I feel like that's ignorant of me to say, so maybe it's not. But
you are, for somebody who doesn't remember the book, so far you have gotten every detail correct. Keep going.
But they become friends, and I remember when I was little, I loved watching movies about friendships and stuff because I didn't have any friends. So I think it would be fun to do that. Although I am more of wanting to do my own stuff. I think I would love to do that. I would love to make that into a movie because I don't think a lot of people read it, and I loved it. So
yeah. For Beauty McElrath, the first day of 6th grade in small town Green River, Florida, proves to be exactly the catastrophe she expected. Yeah, her mom's dating the teacher. You were right. There's a spunky new student who has progeria. And so it's by Carol Lynch Williams. I'll link to it in the show notes.
Oh, reach out to her. Okay. I think...
And Michael, what about you? What's your adaptation dream?
If you're talking about just like IP that exists or whatever, it just got done, and it got done like as good as I could have ever hoped, which was The Last of Us show. Those are games that I played, and my favorite story narrative that I've ever been a part of. And what's great about those is it's a game that's, a lot of games are open world, or you have choices, or you can affect kind of what goes on around you. But that game's a narrative, and so it's about like a brutal world, and you just have to do it. Like that's, if you're gonna play the game, you just have to do it. Sometimes you have to hurt innocent people, sometimes you have to do what it takes to survive. And that's what's special about that game, is you just play it, and you're so satisfied story-wise to have to do the bad things. and just understand that like this is not a good guys bad guys story. It's just a human story. A lot of games are fantasy and they're good guys bad guys, but The Last of Us is just a human story, and so they did that really good. I had the thought when you were asking, because you gave yours, and it's just about a person, and if there was a person's story that I could adapt, it would be my father.
Mm-hmm.
I hopefully you'll just cut all this, or I'll have to ask you to, because I'm just gonna cry if I talk about it. But I have a dad. He's a super swell guy, and just a real life superhero to me. And I know like everyone says that about their dads, but the preface that I can give you to understand is like I don't believe in God, and a lot of that is not unhealthy or anything or any trauma that's happened to me. I think it's actually because I just had a legitimate, true, loving father, who absolutely put me first and took care of me and loved me unconditionally and did everything exactly the way he should have done it. And he's an incredible guy. Like, he's genius level, intelligent, and he's funny, and he's charismatic, and like you'll never find anybody who crossed his path even just once that doesn't remember him and doesn't have a story to tell about him. And what's truly incredible about all of that is I've always strived to leave that impression as well, but it's always been for me. And he is somebody who legitimately does not care what people think about him. He just does what he thinks is right always, and he never doubts himself, and he never questions himself. And he did so many things that I think people don't do for their kids growing up, which is like, one, he never lied to me, not even protective lies. Like when I was like 6, I said, "Hey Dad, is Santa Claus real?" And he said, "No, he's not." And he always treated me like an adult, and he treated me specifically because like we had other siblings and stuff where like the punishment might be different. He never spanked me, even in as a kid in the 90s. He never spanked me, and I asked him once like, why would you maybe spank another kid and not me? And he said, because that's not what you need. That's not what's going to help you learn.
Mm-hmm.
He knew he could talk to me and I could understand the lesson, even at a young age or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's amazing, and it's kind of funny because I would love to find a way to tell his story and give him that credit, but honestly, he doesn't care. He doesn't want it. It wouldn't do anything for him. Legitimately, when you tell your kids like if they want to get you a gift or do any of these things or whatever, and you literally, I mean, you can just say like, I don't need that. I just need you, and that's what it is for him. Like, just the fact that I do love him and think of him that way. Like, that's all he needs. But I do have, because I'm a filmmaker, I do have a very specific idea, which was just like a fever dream that I had once, which is a story that I could tell that gives the essence of what that is without really including him.
Yeah.
Part of what like fascinates me about him is he's kind of alien to me. So like, he loves machines, and he loves knowing how things work, and he loves knowing why things happen and why people do things they do. But he doesn't have any desire to be part of it. So he's like this outside thing. And so when we talk about our childhood and him doing the right thing, like for me and him, we're very different because I have also half of my mom, which is I'm very emotional, and I have things from an emotional standpoint, and he's very analytical. And so that's what's always intrigued me is like, when I have a moment with my kids, like I do it because I need them to feel whatever they're going to feel. And like, I don't know if I have to wonder sometimes if he really had that. I think sometimes he was really just looking at these situations analytically, like the Santa Claus thing, for instance. I don't know that he was just being honest with me to be honest with me. I think he knew that we were poor, and I think he knew that there were going to be Christmases where there weren't presents.
Right.
And was going to become an issue, and so I think that was really more of like a business decision as opposed to just
future proofing.
Being honest,
because he knew you were going to go to school, and Santa Claus was going to give other kids who were maybe assholes and didn't deserve good presents PlayStations, and Santa was going to give you socks maybe, And like, how could Santa be so unfair? Like, how could this omnipotent being be so unjust? And it's better for you to know the truth than to go to school in January and see that like Santa likes those kids better.
Yeah. And I like that you said omnipotent because it takes me back to the God thing, which is that a big reason I have trouble with that is because it always feels conditional. So it's like God loves you and he wants you to have all of this stuff, but also he needs these things from you. Mm-hmm. And that's natural, human nature. Like, I need my kids to love me, and luckily I had my dad in his example, so I do need that, and I crave it or desire it or whatever. But I'm able to like understand, like I'm able to stop myself and be like, no, these are just humans that exist outside of me, and I've forced them to be here, and so it's my job to help them be happy and not use them to make myself happy. And so for my dad, like that's what I was talking about. Is I don't think he really needed anything back from me ever. I think he business wise was just like, he knew the responsibility, he knew what he had gotten himself into, and he knew that he had to just always continue to make the right decisions and do the right things. So my movie would be a little bit inspired by that side of it. That the analysis of that is like a person who actually just chooses to do the right thing, not because they need something back from it or because it's benefiting anyone in a certain way, but just because like that's something you can actually do, is just choose to do the right thing, no matter what's going on in your own life and anything that might be happening to you to make you feel like you should feel sorry for yourself or should choose something else. My dad, as far as I know, he's never felt sorry for himself a second of his life, and that's amazing to me because I've almost never not felt sorry for myself. So if I'm going to adapt somebody's story, I think it'd be him.
Awesome. Well, do you want people to follow you online? Where's Patreon? What, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok?
I don't use Twitter. I like things on Twitter, but I'm not active on Twitter. YouTube.
Sorry, I'm trying to find out.
Most of my stuff is at Taylor Nicole.
Okay. Yep, and it's Taylor with an E, TaYLore.
Yes.
And it's Nicole, Nicholl.
Yes.
E? No.
No.
E. The E is on the Taylor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will link to your YouTube and your Instagram and the Patreon. What's the Patreon? Also Taylor Nicole, or is it? I think it's Inspirational Bling. And Michael, you mentioned TikTok. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, my TikTok is at mediocre_Michael. And if that's a place, if you just want to go see me be stupid, again, just like little skits and dumb stuff, you can go watch that. A lot of the most recent stuff is reaction, or just, I can't really explain it. It's just like,
okay.
It's like duets and just like the stuff you see on TikTok. But if you take the time to scroll further down, then there's a lot more produced, written, packaged stuff that's a little better content. And then my YouTube is Upward Trajectory Films.
All right.
And that has the short films that I've made, and it's a mix of the short films that I've made, and then the longer sketches and 2 or 3 minute videos, and hopefully they're funny. They are.
Outstanding. You can follow Finding Favorites on Instagram, Finding Faves Pod, still on Twitter, not for much longer. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts or on Good Pods. Those are the places left where you can review. Send me an email, findingfavoritspodcast@gmail.com, to pitch guests, to fact check me, to introduce me to Jason Mantzoukas, whatever you need to do. Send me an email.
Thank you for listening to Finding Favorites with Leah Jones. Please make sure to subscribe and drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. Now, go out and enjoy your favorite things.